Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Wisteria here. I hope you're all well. We're going to continue with Fables, so that we're taking a break from all the harsh ghost stories, because there's been a lot. So yeah. We are now on the ass, the fox and the lion. An ass and a fox went into partnership and sailed out to forage for food together. They hadn't gone far before they saw a lion coming their way, at which they were both dreadfully frightened, but they'd already latched their boat and got off. Then the fox thought he saw a way of saving his own skin, and went boldly up to the lion and whispered in his ear, "I'll manage that you shall get hold of the ass without the trouble of stalking him, if you promise to let me go free." The lion agreed to this, and the fox then rejoined his companion and contrived before long to lead him by a hidden pit, which some hunter had dug as a trap for wild animals, and into which he fell. When the lion saw that the ass was safely caught and couldn't get away, it was to the fox that he first turned his attention, and he soon finished him off, and then at his leisure proceeded to feast upon the ass. Apparently, the lesson in that is, betray a friend, and you'll often find you have ruined yourself. It's very true. The Lion and the Mouse. A lion asleep in his lair was waked up, and it actually says waked up, by a mouse running over his face. Losing his temper, he seized it with his paw and was about to kill it. The mouse, terrified piteously, entreated him to spare his life. "Please let me go," it cried, "and one day I will repay you and your kindness." The idea of such an insignificant creature ever being able to do anything for him amused the lion so much that he laughed aloud and good-humouredly let it go. But the mouse's chance did come after all. One day the lion got tangled in a net which had been spread for game by some hunters, and the mouse heard and recognised his roars of anger and ran to the spot. Without more ado, it set to work to gnaw the ropes with its teeth, and succeeded before long in setting the lion free. "There," said the mouse, you laughed when I made my promise I would repay you, but now you see, even a mouse can help a lion." Which is true, and that's a tale that's long been told, and I think changed throughout the years, but these are from 1912. Some of the words are a little odd, but I do try and change them to fit them into modern times, rather than saying them as they are, but I just like that it said "wecked" instead of "waked." I thought it was funny. So it would be interesting to know if you can identify the lesson within that. The next story, fable, sorry. The Crow and the Pitcher. A thirsty crow found a pitcher with some water in it, but so little was there that, try as he might, he could not reach it with his beak, and it seemed as though he would die of thirst within sight of the remedy. At last he hit upon a clever plan. He began dropping pebbles into the pitcher, and with each pebble the water rose up a little higher, until at last it reached the brim. And the knowing bird was enabled to quench his thirst. Apparently, the lesson in that is necessity is the mother of invention. The next fable, The Boys and the Frogs. Some mischievous boys were playing on the edge of a pond, and catching sight of some frogs swimming about in the shallow water, they began to amuse themselves by pelting them with stones, and they killed several of them. At last, one of the frogs put his head out of the water and said, "Oh, stop, stop, I beg of you. What is sport to you is death to us." There doesn't seem to be a lesson in that, but I'm sure there is hidden somewhere, but none is put underneath. The North Wind and the Sun. A dispute arose between the North Wind and the Sun, each claiming that he was stronger than the other. At last they agreed to try their powers upon a traveller to see which could soonest strip him of his cloak. The North Wind had the first try, and, gathering up all his force for the attack, he came whirling furiously down upon the man, and caught up his cloak as though he would wrest it from him by one single effort. But the harder he blew, the more closely the man wrapped it round himself. Then came the turn of the Sun. At first he beamed gently upon the traveller, who soon unclasped his cloak and walked on with it hanging loosely about his shoulders. Then he shone forth in his full strength, and the man, before he had gone many steps, was glad to throw his cloak right off and complete his journey more lightly clad. And the lesson in that, guys, is persuasion is better than force. But that, again, that's a very old tale that's been told many a times before, and I'm sure some of you remember it. The Mistress and the Servants. A widow, thriftily and industrious, had 2 servants, whom she kept pretty hard at work. They were not allowed to lie long abed in the mornings, but the old lady had them up and doing as soon as the clock or the cock crew or the clock alarm went. They disliked intensely having to get up at such an hour, especially in winter time, and they thought that if they were not for the cock waking up their mistress so horribly early, they could sleep longer because the alarm could simply be turned off. So they caught it and wrung its neck. But they weren't prepared for the consequences. For what happened was that their mistress, not hearing the cock crow as usual, it doesn't say woke them up, but it should say woke them up, but it said waked them up earlier than ever, and set them to work in the middle of the night. I'm not sure what the lesson is in that because it doesn't actually state a lesson, but I'm sure there will be one. But yeah, like I said, there is a few weird words in these because it's just how they are. They're very old, like I say, 1912, but they were definitely from further back. And the next one is The Goods and the Ills. This is one I've not actually ever heard of myself, so. There was a time in the youth of the world when goods and ills entered equally into the concerns of men, so that the goods did not prevail to make them altogether blessed, nor the ills to make them wholly miserable. But owing to the foolishness of mankind, the ills multiplied greatly in number and increased in strength, until it seemed as though they would deprive the gods of all share in human affairs, and banish them from the whole earth. The latter, therefore, betook themselves to heaven and complained to Jupiter of the treatment they had received, and at the same time praying him grant them protection from the ills, and to advise them concerning the manner of their intercourse with men. Jupiter granted their request for protection and decreed that the liable to attack from the hostile ills, but singly and unobserved, is full of ills, for they come and go as they please, and are never far away, while goods, alas, come one by one only, and have to travel all the way from heaven, so that they are very seldom seen. Right, so I know that's a really bizarre one. I'm going to try and explain it to you. This is something like an old Bible tale, and the goods are what we call the angels, the angelic ones, the ones that come to protect, and the ills are seen as the Nephilim, that are going about earth, planting their seed. What it means is they're breeding with humans, and they shouldn't be, but it's just wrote out in a very different manner. But that's essentially what that fable's about. So it's not as old as the other fables, I don't think, because the other fables can be led back to 600 BC. So this one wouldn't be as old, I don't think, but it is technically a Bible story remade. So that's the next lot of fables done, everyone. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Forgive my dog in the background. That's Dougal, you can hear, doing whatever he does. Many blessings.